so excited to talk with you for a multitude of reasons. Yes, I'm a baseball fan, but I feel like this book that you wrote is so much larger than baseball. When I was searching for what's going on in the world of sports and I land on this, the concept of 90% mental really resonated with me because I feel that is it. That's the missing intangible with every human being, whether you can get straight in here. Maybe talk a little bit about the motivation for doing this, because writing a book is not easy.
Yeah.
And how we get to this point.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's a great day to be in Chicago by the ballpark. The book, it was my third attempt at writing the book. My first attempt was more shortly after I retired. It was just kind of about my struggles, and it was more an applied. I just finished graduate school. I wanted to write something applied with performance. I wasn't really sure the direction of where it was going to go. I had a gentleman that was helping me edit it, but he really wasn't pulling it forward to a book or a manuscript. So I put it away for a year or two, and then had a second opportunity to do it, and found a co-writer to help me write it. And again, we really weren't sure the direction it was going to go in. Was it going to be an applied, the how-tos of performance, or was it going to be a biography, which I didn't want to do, or where was it going to go? So we wrote a proposal. We had an agent in New York, wrote a proposal. Proposal didn't come over very well. At that point, I'm spending money, to pay for a writer, and I said, I'll just put it away for now. And then it was December of 2016, book agent Rob Kirkpatrick from New York called me, and he had heard snippets of from my second attempt. He had heard snippets, and there was someone I talked to in New York that, word of mouth, and he goes, I want to do a book with you. And I said, great. He goes, I already have the title. It's 90% mental, and we'll fill in the blanks. And big baseball fan. I said, that's great. So he said, now we got to find a writer, a co-writer. So I had some names of some people. He had some names, and then we came on Scott Miller, who was writing for the Bleacher Report, still is, terrific writer. Wrote a great article about Dee Gordon, which I didn't really realize the struggles that Dee had gone through, and others. And Scott was a beat writer with the Twins when I was there. So we knew each other from that experience. We met at Nino's in Fort Myers, which I think has since burnt down. We had some Italian food, and we said, look, this is how it can work. We did 50-50. I said, look, I'm not in this for the money. I want someone that knows baseball to write it. I had several, I probably had 50 to 75 pages of stuff, my stories, anecdotal stories, and he weaved it all in. And we wrote a great proposal, and the Capo Books, we sold the rights to the Capo Books from the Hachette Book Group. And it came out in spring of 2018. So March 20th, 2018. It's been great.
Do you feel like you had been thinking about this? Forget about the book, just the concept for a significant amount of time that led you into having enough to share with whoever?
Well, I wanted to share my story because it's a story of struggle. A 19th round draft pick, grew up in a trailer in a small town in New Hampshire. 3 kids slept in one bed, or one side of the trailer. Parents, divorced parents, oldest son, not high school educated, both dropped out. They were 19 when they had me. And so I love baseball, and it was like kind of my, that was my vein, I loved it. I used to chart the game of the week with Ted Kubek and Joe Garagiola. I'd go out and throw balls against the wall, making the strike zone. I'd hit rocks into the woods, making up my own games. So, and then I had 2 surgeries. I had an elbow surgery, and I went to Rutgers University first on a scholarship, partial scholarship. Dropped out of there. Went there in September, dropped out in November. Went and worked at a birdseed factory, delivering mail-order birdseed. No, first I was working at a lumber yard, which I hated, and then went to deliver birdseed. And the story, a lot of this stuff's in the book, but I was delivering birdseed one day down the chute, and my high school baseball coach was at the bottom of he was on the road where the truck went down. I have people bumps talking about it now. And he kind of looked at me, and I knew I shouldn't be there. And his look reaffirmed, like, what are you doing? And so I transferred to St. Leo University, now with St. Leo College in Florida in that January. Played JV baseball, gave up 20 runs in 3 innings in a game against Manatee Community College. The infielders were diving out of the way, Actually, J.P. Ricciardi, who was a GM with the Blue Jays in Oakland and the Mets, was a former teammate. And so then signed and had elbow surgery, and then later shoulder surgery. Got demoted 6 times. I think that I've ridden the buses, cramped up in a stuffy bus. I've eaten the cold pizza of minor league ballparks. I've worn wet uniforms because they don't dry. Been promoted, demoted, had injuries. So and my first full year in the big leagues wasn't until I was 30. So I thought there's a story there. One of the greatest compliments that I got from a colleague who read the book was Mike Boyle. He has Boyle Strength and Conditioning. He's a really well-known expert in that field. He said, this is a book about success with a baseball background. And I thought that was a very flattering remark from somebody who knows about the struggle himself.
So you and I were talking about what I wrote in my book, and it's very fascinating because deep inside you went through rough moments. That did you recognize that was part of your fuel when you were finding success, and did you feel it was success at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had a good amount of success so that I could keep climbing. Certainly there were dark times. I mean, after Dr. Arthur Pappas did my shoulder surgery, actually I was playing for the Cubs and was just not pitching well, and I saw the Cub physician back then, and at the time they were doing this orthopedic, they were doing exploratory, like shrinking the capsule type stuff, and they wanted to do that, which was kind of the new thing. And I'm like, I'm gonna go see Dr. Pappas because I live in New England, I've trained with him, and he wanted me to just rehab it. And I said, look, I need to get this fixed. So we set up a surgery. I went into the surgery, and I remember my wife's now, we were just dating at the time, drove me to my buddy's house, and I'm in a sling, and it's a dirt road in New Hampshire, and my arm's bouncing up and down, and it hurts. And I'm like, oh God, is this it? Am I ever going to come back from this? How am I ever going to do this? And the other part of that was that they went in and made some cocktails, and I was feeling so bad because of the pain and the anesthesia, and I'm like, just give me one too. About 15 minutes later, the room's spinning, and I'm like, come help, somebody please wake me up, because I shouldn't have done that. But I was, just in that mindset of like, so there were enough, but overcoming that, getting back to the big leagues, having success in the big leagues, being with the Cardinals and having an organization that believed in me and gave me the chance to pitch, Joe Torre, and then, you slide back down again and then you climb back up. So I had enough to know that I had had success, but it wasn't until after that I tell the players now, everyone has a different path. And this is your path, to embrace it. Because when I was going through it at the time, I was miserable during those low times because you don't know what's ahead of you. You just think that that's it. But as you get older and you can look back and understand your path happened for a reason and it's authentic and it's your path, that you're going to be okay. This is just your path.
Do you feel like growing up in a trailer and a family that clearly was non-traditional in that your parents had issues or challenges that they battled through, do you feel like your understanding or your scope of life experience helped prepare you for something that could be very mentally straining to go up and down in a major league career and pace success or be close to it and then fall back down?
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a great point. I think so because I always had to struggle, and so, it was literally paycheck to paycheck. It was, other things that I talk about in the book. And so I really appreciated what I had when I got it. And I'm not sure that everyone feels that way. I think that there are some players who get to the big leagues and really aren't happy. Maybe it's a burden of talent to where they're a high draft pick or they have these expectations, and it's hard to live up to that. I didn't have that. I just wanted to play in the big. I just wanted to play baseball, and anything that I got was great on top of that. And I think it's because of the appreciation I had of things could be worse.
Yeah, you had a scope of nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, some people, I'm sure, like they dream of getting to the majors. I heard an interview that you were doing where you talked about talking with the minor league team, and 20 of them, most of them were raised in mental. One had physical because of an injury, and one. So when you think about that, yes, baseball automatically creates a celebrity status with these young athletes. The money probably changes some things that are going on from their well-being or the chaos that exists outside that ballpark when they're not tossing around the ball. But their problems are the same as anybody else that's going through a career.
Yeah, totally. But it's the perspective of, that's what's larger than life. I mean, when I finally got to the big leagues or saw my first check or saw my first baseball card, or even now I look back and I go, did that really happen? Because it's surreal. You dream about something for so long and then it becomes real and it's like, whoa. And I think that's what people see is what they feel like, wow, that would be really cool. How lucky are they? I wish they think. And you forget about, you get dressed the same way, you got to go to work, you have good days, you have bad days, you've got bills to pay, you've got kids to raise, you've got, family and friends, and, you have life. And so I do think that in perspective, if people, it's like being in someone's shoes, I think, and that's such a great metaphor of being in the struggle, because until you're really there, it may seem great, but then you realize you're like, oh my God, this isn't what I thought.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think you also had, I mean, in retrospect, you make it to the big leagues when you're in your 30s. That ends up being an advantage for you too, because when you're 18 and that pressure comes on from a pure life standpoint, you had your life story that probably helped prepare you and as you reflect back, but even being able to live through more life before you got to that moment, did that change your perspective when you were in it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's why I would really advise high school kids not to sign, to go to college and to have that experience. I think a good friend and a guy that writes, Lars Anderson, who played for the Cubs a little bit, is a great example of that. It's a really big pick for the Red Sox. Terrific guy. He could have gone to Cal Berkeley, very smart, experienced college, and he signed because that's what he loved to do. And I think he feels, we got to the big leagues a little bit, but He's always, and he's talked about it, and the reason I'm saying this is he shared this in his blog that he wrote on Bleacher Report, that he missed a little something. And that developmental time from 18 to 21 is really big, and being in college and navigating that and being a student athlete and the demands of that and just figuring out stuff is really important. Certainly there are great players that come right out of high school. There's a lot of number one picks. Cole Hamels, who pitched last night, he's a tremendous athlete. Sean Dunston, who was the number one overall pick in the country. So it does happen, but I think, developmentally, if you look at the stages of development, 18 to 21, 21 to, as a baseball player, 18 to 21, 22, 22 to 28, 28 beyond, as a man, there's all kinds of different stages of development. And each of those are important. I think recognizing those and understanding those are just as important as you make your way up.
The position that you have with the Cubs is a relatively new thing for baseball, and even in your career, you saw the tail end of the physicality focused coaching, or things that started evolving towards the tail end of it, and now it's gone in a whole new direction.
It's crazy.
Did you? So you finish baseball, you decide you're going to get a degree that sets you up for, forget about baseball. It was a pathway where you could take your life experience and apply it to anything. Did you project that this is where you wanted to
I had no
end up?
idea, Nick. No, I knew that when I retired, I wanted to finish my undergrad, which I did, correspondence courses. I think my daughter was 8 or 9, and I, maybe 7. I had Beanie Babies on my backpack, and I'd go into class with the 20-year-olds, and I was the old wise man. And so I finished my undergrad in physical education, and then waited 2 years to get my master's. And I had no idea when I wanted to do it for 4 years. It took 4 years to finally do it, but I thought about it and I'm like, I don't know. And this was a time when baseball, mental skills were just coming around. Ken Revisa, God bless him, Harvey Dorfman, others, Carl Keel, in the 80s, they wrote The Mental Game of Baseball, and late 80s. But it was still kind of like, I'm not sure, this is a little too touchy-feely. Let's not talk about the mental game. So all I knew was that if I could get a degree in applied sports psychology combined with my playing experience at the major league level, I would have a unique resume. And that unique resumes turned out to be a great second career because, started the Red Sox program in 2004, was in the minor leagues during the championship seasons, but had a lot of those guys in the minor leagues: Ellsbury, Papelbon, Pedroia, Euclid. And then in 2013, I was involved more with the team at the major league level, which was really fun. And then to the Giants, which had great tradition in winning, and now here to the Cubs, who have presently in a great run of most wins in baseball the last 4 years. It's pretty cool. And the other thing is, more and more former players are starting to see this and starting to do it. Teams are starting to hire more former players, and it's really taken off. Yeah.
So from a mental standpoint, being present is part of what you talk about, but I think there's something else there. I think it's also being present that you're actually on that field and appreciate, because it's going to go fast.
Oh.
And then it's done.
Yeah.
And then that's also mental taxing because you're 40 years old. You have
now
plenty
what do
of
I
life,
do?
right?
Yeah.
So there's there's many layers to this.
You're right. Well, to that point, I remember being in graduate school, and I think Michael Jordan or somebody was trying to make a comeback, and I'm like, maybe I should do that, because this doesn't feel good. You literally lose your identity as a person, and that's really hard. I don't think people understand how hard that is. But that's at the back end of it. At the forefront of that, there are times when, I remember coming to the ballpark, being a big leaguer, and thinking, God, I wish I didn't have to do this today, because of the stress. It's like, oh, I've got to go pitch. Oh, what if I don't pitch well? And so you manage the stress, and I used to tell myself, all right, where am I? What am I doing? I'm at Busch Stadium. What am I doing? I'm pitching. Be there.
You're pinching yourself.
Yeah, where am I? What am I doing? And then I'd do it when I was with my family. If we were out at a movie and I was thinking about baseball, I'd be like, where am I? At a movie. What am I doing? Watch the movie.
Yeah.
I'm having dinner with my wife. Be there. Don't be distracted. And I think that's important because you really have to be present, because I played 18 years of professional baseball, which is really long. And it went by so fast. I was 38 when I retired, and I felt like I was 58 emotionally.
Yeah.
And I look back at pictures I'm like, oh my God, look how young I was. I was 38 years old. But in baseball, as an athlete, I was older.
Yeah.
The kids seemed so old. They were 5 and 7, and we thought they were teenagers, And then we were like, oh my God, they were so young. And now they're 27 and 25. And it's just like, how'd that happen?
Perspective is weird.
Yeah, it goes so fast.
For the other side of this, and I think that what your advice is also deeply valuable to those that don't make the big leagues, because you have folks that commit. That's all they know. And talk about someone that would be in like minor leagues in their late 20s or early 30s. That's all that they know.
Yeah.
And their dream to make the major leagues doesn't happen.
Right.
Your philosophies still are important for them, because the reality is they should also pinch themselves if they were able to go that far,
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I had lunch with a former player in Pittsburgh, good friend that never made it. And we had lunch, and he has a very good career in finance. He's got 2 kids now, and he welled up, his eyes welled up that he was sad that he didn't make it. And I felt so badly, but I was like, but you wore the uniform. We got to AAA, and so it's such a hard thing because, what does they say? It's better to have loved and lost than never loved at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, because sometimes, the players that get there for a little bit and then have it taken away have that same feeling like, God, I should have stayed. And the players that don't get there go, God, I didn't make it. And so there's always a measurement of, I wish I'd have done better. I wish I'd have played more. Why did I get hurt? All these little things that come up that are difficult to handle. But back to the book, it's about being present. It's about, I talk about the little man, that voice in our head. We all have it, every day. It's there. Which one do we listen to? The ability to help people succeed, like I said, I think we're like black labs. You pat them on the back, you give us some food, and we'll do anything.
Yeah.
And that type of encouragement, to have dreams, to have imagined success. Those are all, So the book is certainly baseball based, but like we said earlier, it's really life performance based. Mental skills are life skills. You just put them into an athlete. It's the same stuff.
It just happens to be the widget. The widget is the athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think the pat on the back thing is so valuable too. I mean, not that you need to comment on this, but from an outsider, I could watch the media hound the manager of the Chicago Cubs, and the reality, he's won a World Series for the city, but it was like forgotten in this offseason.
Yeah.
He needs a pat on the back too. Like, people don't lose that as you age. You
No.
always need that.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we all need that. We all want to be told. I've been married 30 years, and I still like to be told, "Hey, you look good today."
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah.
I tell my wife all the time. I think she's way ahead of me in looking good, but Yeah, that's so important. And I've told people in the front office, you know, that minor league, as it relates to baseball, minor league player development will go down and see the minor league teams, the manager, this, that. And a lot of times they're measuring, like, how come this guy's not playing well? How come the number one pick's not? And it's never like, hey, we appreciate the grind.
That's it.
You know, we appreciate, and I've encouraged front office people to say that. Go down there and tell them, we really appreciate what you're doing, you know, because we know you're busting your butt. You're on the buses, you get 13-hour bus rides, you're, you know, staying at Comfort Inns. That goes a long way.
I think there's going to have to be that shift. Sports, life, my business, like it's going to have to turn to that appreciation, because the buzz term in the work environment and even in athletics is anxiety. It's so high that the pressures that we put on ourselves, the exposure to information on the World Wide Web, it is all around us at all times, that if you don't have that people support system, and if a front office can't realize that they're still trying their best, that they know they're doing the best that they know, it, like, our world or our environment, whether it's sports or business or just people in general, it's going to have to catch up there, or else the anxiety part is going to be tricky.
I couldn't agree more. That, you know, the phone has been a great it's true. It's changed the world, obviously, and we all know the research about it, the addiction tendencies, the lack of interpersonal relationships. You know, that type of access does not help athletes, or I'm guessing any employees in anything, because it's there. You know, you're working at a desk and you get a text. So you're really focused on what you're doing. You know, the players at all levels, you know, they're on their phone until they go out to the field, and they come in and they're back on their phone. It used to be, you know, we played cards, or you talked, or you did something. And so, you know, I really don't like, you know, using these millennials, because I think that it's you know, life changes. People grow up with black and white TV. People grow up without cable. People grow out, you know, and as those advances happen, society changes. So it's not a bad thing. It just is. And I think what is bad is the lack of soft skills, so to speak, of having a discussion, to not be distracted by your phone, to not always look at it. I'm walking today to go to Starbucks, and this guy's on his phone, and I'm looking right at him, and he's gonna walk right into me. And I don't move, and I just stop. And he, you know, he sensed that he was there, but he was totally gone, didn't know where he was going. And, you know, people have gotten hit on sidewalks from being, so anyway, we're getting off but the point in your comment, Nick, is that it doesn't allow the stress and anxiety to go away. It accelerates it.
It accelerates it.
And I think if I was a commissioner for a day, I would say no cell phones once you get into the clubhouse. If there's an emergency, you need something, the team will come down and find you. You need, you know, you're at work. Focus on work.
I mean, most work environments have some sort of philosophy. And if
you see a pilot, hang on a second. I got a couple of texts here. I got to send an email. I'll get back to you in a minute.
You can't. Yeah, I think it's their escape, though. I mean, if you're asking those minor leaguers what is your stress point, and they say mental, they're looking for the same sort of escape from this craziness of life. Whatever this life is, they're looking for that escape, and that's all that they can. And
they're getting it through their phone. There's a guy that's Rob Ricardo, is a new musician and in Phoenix area, and he has a song, Not Chasing Dopamine Hearts, the likes on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's true. That's how they cope with their anxiety.
As you reflect on your life, you're sitting here across from a place that you played. You've done amazing things, whether that was getting out of your childhood, which based on data you shouldn't have. You should not be standing here. You fought through major leagues. you got injured that could have deteriorated or ruined your career. You came back. You persevered in college. And so when you reflect back on this, do you feel happiness? Do you feel satisfied? Or have you accomplished that? Like, do you get to reflect on that?
That's a great reflective question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me reflect on that. I do, but I think that I'm always in search of what's next. I've found that, I like to achieve. I think people give me credit externally, like your struggle, what a great example, this, that, and it feels good, but I was going to say I get bored. I think that I've had to become such an achiever that in motivation that when I set my sights on something that I want to accomplish it, and I don't want to run out of those, because after you retire, part of that identity, you kind of ran out of that, that quest and competition or achievement, and I want to continue that. I just don't know what it's going to be, and but yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever really paused to think about that internally. I
mean, for me, it's not. I don't struggle with finding happiness, but I struggle with understanding, or what I perceive to be the understanding of what happiness is. So literally, I'm sitting in my office in the Prudential building. Our company is 10 years old, and mentally I'm like, well, we could be so much bigger or so much better. I'm like, Nick, shut up for a second. And I have to have those pinch moments. So I think in this crazy life that we have, it's more so finding happiness in as many little moments as possible that gives us the fuel to keep on feeling good about whatever this is.
Mindfulness meditation is the new. Yeah. It's been around for 2,000 years, but now that we have fMRIs and can do brain research, we can see the real benefits of it. But it's been around. It's like everything in moderation, right? It's not that hard. The blueprint for life is pretty simple. It's just doing it, and dealing with the distractions, and I think that you're right. I mean, so the ego gets in the way of more. I want more money, I read a great book years ago called What Happy People Know, and it's not about wealth, it's not about more things, it's literally just being happy with where you are and what you're doing, and being grateful for everything that you have. When you really think about, that's why everyone that think about the stuff that we have, we should be really, really grateful. Harvey Dorfman, again, is a great mentor, said, Tewks, if everyone got in a circle and threw their troubles in the middle, you'd be happy to take yours back.
It's a great point. Yeah, people get so stuck in their own heads, and they don't pause and look around and know that me and John Vincent were talking about that nobody's saying, hey, you battled depression, you thought about committing suicide. No, nobody says that to him. But it's like we as humans are so locked in our own minds that when you start looking around, you can find the good in most situations.
Well, that's true. However, but we're human.
We're human.
And we're fallible, and I think that's where self-compassion comes in. It's like, give yourself a break. You're going to be okay. Things are okay.
Right.
You're not perfect. You make mistakes, and but it starts at really the youth sport, college quest for scholarships and AAUs and parent the push to get the grades and stuff. So that anxiety starts at a young age for people, which is a lot different than what it was when I was a kid. And so that's just part of our society's changing. And I hope it comes back to, look, I've got, like I said, I have 2 kids that are in their 20s, and I joke with my wife that I said, it used to be the terrible 2s, but now it's the terrible 20s because you got to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't know.
And
life is so different. We know everything about what they're doing, and we talk about when we were growing up, our parents didn't even know where we were, so, and we try to like pull back, and it's a challenge even for parents.
Yeah, that's where I think the beauty of what you write, what you speak about, is bigger than that part. It's human, and whether that's parents, the same thing. It's 90% mental parenting.
It's hard.
School, work, getting up, losing weight. Like that's the underlining thing. Like when you you listen to the little guy on your shoulder, there's so much bigger to that. And I appreciate the philosophies. I appreciate your story.
Well, they're not, like we all know, I didn't come up with them. I've had great mentors, Dorfman and Revisa, other people that you read and people that really express the same stuff. And we can just be messengers because we all need it.
Yeah.
The hard part is to do it in and around the demands of life. Parenting, working jobs, working multiple jobs, not being able to sleep. How do you cope with distraction, alcohol or tobacco, or those are all vices that, look, I get it. It's a way to deal with life. And so through that, and this is what it comes back to, a colleague of mine said something I'll never forget. He said, Tewks, talking about baseball players in general, players should not suffer alone, and neither should humans, because that's what causes suicides, people that have suffered alone for a long time. And people need a go-to guy. So players don't suffer alone, and have a go-to guy.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be a go-to guy for the players and the people that I connect with. And I think that that feels good, and hopefully I can help people along the way.
I think you are. Even if you're humble enough not to take credit, I bet you the undertone of you just being willing to have that conversation, whether in the moment it has that effect, at some point people that have probably ever met you will be able to dig deep and use that as something to get them through a tough day.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Cool.
Great.
Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, awesome.